All right, if you missed the fetal pig dissection, or if you just want to review the things that we talked about, I'm going to go step by step and show you the structures and the features and what they do. So here is our fetal pig, and I've already gone and cut it open, got it all ready for us, just so we can move through this pretty quick. But let's take a look at the external features first. The first thing we need to determine is whether or not your pig is male or female. To do that, just come right back here at the tail, right below the anus. You have the urogenital papillae on girls, which is this structure right here. Okay, so you have a female. If it was male, you would come right up here next to the umbilical cord, right behind it. There would be a genital opening there, but since it's not, you have a female pig. All right, let's move up to the mouth and the face structures. So we have the external nares, lovely tongue. Now, in fetal pigs, there's a lot of muscle right there by the mouth. So what I did is I sliced through that so that we could really open this mouth up and get a good look at the features inside. So, taking a look in here, first thing you want to note, there is the hard palate. It's got all the fun ridges and bumps on it, surrounded by a background of bone, so it's nice and hard. Then it moves down to the soft palate right here. There's no bone behind it. And then as you go down here, there's this little flap of skin or cartilage right there, and that's called the epiglottis. Now just a reminder, the epiglottis covers the opening to the trachea to keep food and water out of the lungs. So if you slid this probe right down behind the epiglottis, it would go straight into the lungs. Behind that, if you pull that way out, okay, you're going to get into the esophagus that sits right behind that. So those are just a couple of the main features of the mouth structure of the pig. Let's come down, and we're just going to work our way down through the pig. So let's open up the thoracic cavity. And that's the whole chest cavity here. Let's see. First thing we have as we're moving down through this, hold these arms out of the way. This big lump thing right here, that is the larynx. That's the voice box. So the vocal cords are in there. From the larynx, so air moves down through this lovely structure right here, and that's the trachea. You can kind of see those little cartilage rings that keeps it open so they can breathe all the time. So that is the trachea. If you come right behind it, this little tube right here that's stuck right behind it, kind of get around it, that is the esophagus. And the food travels down through the esophagus, and the esophagus stays collapsed when it's not in use. When it does get used, it opens up and allows the food to go through. So you have the trachea, and then you have the esophagus. Now let's just keep working our way down. What we're going to come across to next is the great big heart. And it's this great big thing right here. Okay, with the heart, remember mammals have 4-chambered hearts. So, see these two dark structures right here? Those are the atrias. So the atrias are the two top chambers of the heart. And then this big thing right here, this is the ventricle lower area. So you have the right ventricle and the left ventricle. And that makes up the 4 chambers of the heart. That just allows better circulation so the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood don't mix. Okay, off to both sides of the heart, you have the lungs. So here, all of this right here is the lungs. Remember, it's nice and squishy. It's solid, or it's a solid inside, really squishy like a sponge. It's got thousands of alveoli that just help with oxygen and gas exchange. Also on this side, here's the other set of lungs. So pretty good lungs. All right, moving down underneath the heart, we come across this thin sheet of muscle right there, if you can see it. Remember, this thin sheet of muscle separates the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavities, and that's your diaphragm. Now, all mammals have a diaphragm. It helps with breathing. So it's just a really thin sheet of muscle right there. So we're going to move down through that thin sheet of muscle, and now we're into the abdominal cavity. So let me pull a few things back so you can get a good look of all the parts in here. First thing you come across are the liver. Okay, there's a few lobes of liver. And if you come right over here to that little notch, and lift it up, right up underneath that. You can kind of see it's a little deflated in this one. This structure right here, all right? That is the gallbladder. Remember, the gallbladder's job is to store bile that's made by the liver, and that bile helps break down fats in the digestive system. So there's the bile duct that leads down, and we come down into the big leathery pouch here, and that's the pig's stomach. It's actually a pretty good size. Inside it's got lots of rugae, which are folds that help crush up and mechanically digest the food. So that is your very large stomach, filled full of fluids right now. This structure right here looks like a big long tongue that just wraps up around the stomach. That is called the spleen. Now the spleen's job is to help break apart old and broken down blood cells. So there's the spleen there, just sitting wrapped around the stomach. Also, if you come over here, lift the stomach up, this little bumpy structure right here, that is the pancreas. Anytime you come across a bumpy structure, it's going to be dealing with the endocrine system, so hormones. This one has a job with both systems. It deals with releasing insulin, which helps control blood sugar levels, but it also aids in digestion and releasing enzymes that help break down the foods that are released right into the small intestines. So if you come back, follow the stomach right over here, it's going to connect right into the small intestines. And this big jumbled mass of stuff right here, these are all the small intestines. So lots of fun area. Now the job of small intestines, this is where most of the nutrients are being absorbed into the bloodstream. And if you look right here, the intestines are all held together pretty tightly. And if you see this kind of saran wrap looking skin, it's kind of clear and see-through. It's got these little tubes that lead down to the rest of the bloodstream. That's called the mesentery. And that mesentery just holds all the pieces together so they're not moving around too much. Okay, now let's move over here. You've almost got this big knot of greenish gray stuff right here. This stuff is the large intestines. Notice they're much bigger. They're all really knotted together. And this is where most of the water is absorbed into the bloodstream. So this is all the large intestines. Okay. Now moving through, if you follow the large intestines, this structure right here, that is the end of the large intestines, which makes up the rectum. So that rectum is going to lead right outside to the anus where the food can be passed. Okay, also to note, we're going to come down here. So here's the flap of skin where the umbilical cord is. If we pull that back, right back here, you're going to come across this long pouch. All right, and that's actually the urinary bladder. So in fetal pigs, they haven't shifted to the abdominal cavity yet, and it's actually still kind of found in the umbilical cord. So this is the abdominal bladder, just a big muscular sac that stores the urine. And connected to the urinary bladder, you would find these two long tubes. If we kind of cut through here, these tubes right here. This tube is one of the ureters, and that leads straight to the kidney. So there's a ureter, and there's going to be another ureter on this side. So while we're here, let's move to the back part right here. I'm just lifting up the intestines. See this big jelly bean shape right here? That is one of the kidneys. You notice it's surrounded by some skin that helps keep things in place. Okay, that's the... Oh, here we go. Let's just slice through that skin to kind of free up that kidney a little bit more. We'll pull that skin back. And you can see there's the kidney. It's free. It's held together by arteries and veins that connect it straight into the circulatory system. And remember, the kidney's job is to filter the blood. So all the blood flows through the kidneys, and then any toxins or any waste that are produced by the cells, get filtered out and sent to the bladder to be released as urine. Okay, you come over here, there's the other one on this side, right there in that same sac. All right, so in a nutshell, these are just the parts and pieces that we looked at, their main functions. Go through, watch it again, review, make sure you know what these pieces are, make sure you know what they do, where they're located, and that was our lovely pig dissection.